So this is going to be PySpark interview question video series. So the playlist link is there in the description box where you can find more interview questions in PySpark. Now let's get into the topic. Hi, welcome to the Data Tech. So today I'm going to show you a very interesting interview question in PySpark asked in a product-based company. I have cracked that particular question and I have the code ready. So let me give you a walkthrough on the code and I will execute the code and show you the output. So the question is very interesting. So imagine you have a row and this row has like formed with 4 columns and each of this column has been delimited with a different delimiter. Generally, if you take a file, the delimiters will be common, but here it has a different delimiter. For example, you can see 1 comma alias and then you have slash t as a delimiter and then comes the age and then the city Newark again delimited with a pi symbol. So that means you have 3 different delimiters and how you will be handling this particular scenario. Now, first, this is a data. Let's create the data and I just need some imports to be get imported. I need split function and call function. So I'm just importing this from the function under PySpark SQL library. Okay, let me run this imports. Okay, so now comes the data. So this is my data. So let me execute this data. Now I have to create a data frame. I have to convert this data to a data frame. So the next function is spark.create data frame. I'm just giving my data variable name and then whatever the content of the data I have is a string. So I'm just specifying the data type as well. So this will create a data frame. Okay, so now the data frame has been created. Now with after creating the data frame, now we are coming to the main part. So I'm just using the split function. Okay, and then df. So this df is actually the data frame that I created and value denotes the content inside that particular df. So I'm just splitting that with whatever the combination of delimiters I have in my file. I'm just passing all here with like you can see, I have comma and then I have slash t and then I have a slash and then the pipe. So I'm just giving all the delimiters here. Now this is the line which does the magic. So just copy this and then execute. Okay. So now the next thing is I'm just creating a column name for each of the split part. Okay. So each of the split part. Okay. I'm just creating a column name and I'm getting the value. So item of 0, that means the first value. And 1 denotes the second, that is the name column. And 2 denotes the age column. And 3 denotes the city column. So I'm just creating a name and I'm just getting the values based on the index value. Okay, so now let me execute this. Now as the last step, I'll be executing the select and I'm giving a name as ID, name, age, city for each of this column. So that's what I have mentioned here. So ID, name, age, city. So I'm just selecting that over here. So now I'm executing the select and show function. So now you can able to see 1 alias 30 and then Newark. So I'm getting this output, but by seeing the output, no one can imagine that the delimiter of this each particular column is different, right? So the important part of the code is the split part. So you are splitting the data each column based on the combination of delimiters that you have mentioned in the second part of the split function. So whenever a split function identifies a specific delimiter that has been mentioned here, it will split that particular column. So whenever like it just does the kind of an iteration part. So first it takes the first column, it iterates and check whether the particular column, the first column delimiter with matches with comma or slash t or a pi symbol or a slash, then it stops there, it breaks there. And then it does the same thing for the second column, second iteration, and then the third column, third iteration, and the for fourth column, it does the fourth iteration. So this is really an interesting part of the question in the interview they have asked. Okay. I have given the code in the description box of this video. If you like this video, please do subscribe my channel and thanks for watching. Right. Welcome to the Data Tech. So today I'm going to show you a very interesting question in PySpark they have asked in one of the product-based company. And the question is really very interesting. So they have a list of values, numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is actual list. Now they are just missing some of the numbers from the list and they're asking us to identify the missing value from the list. So let me just show you the scenario here. So I just cracked that question and I have the code with me. Okay. So now if you see here, this is the input. So it has 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 10. the missing values are 3 is missing, and then after 5, 6 is missing, and after 8, 9 is missing. So our agenda is to get the missing values. Okay, it's actually an interesting question. So first what I'm doing is, let me just import whatever the imports which is necessary. So I'm just importing the Spark session and the call function. So let me first import this. So the number of lines of the code to achieve this is very less, like just 4 lines of code. But the question is very interesting. Now this is the data. I just give this data, and after this I'm going to convert this to a data frame with the data type of numbers. Okay, so the line number 5 is just to convert the input data to a data frame. Now what is the next thing is, I'm just creating another data set. I'm just using the range function. I'm just creating the numbers range from 1 to 11. So that means it gives the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm creating this as another data frame with number as a data type. So I'm just converting this to a data frame. So I'm having two data set now. So I have one data set which is in line number 4, which has some missing values, and I have this data frame in line number 7, which has a full range of value from 1 to 11. Right. So now I'm just going to create the second data frame as well. Okay. So now what is the next thing is, you might have already guessed what I'm going to do. Yes, obviously I'm going to do a join between this first data frame and the second data frame, but the join what I'm going to use here is left anti-join. It's not left join. So left anti-join, which returns all the rows from the left which does not match with the rows in the right. That is the definition of left anti-join. Okay, so now let me run these two lines. Okay, so enter. So this will give only the missing values 3, 6, 9. You can ask me like, okay, what if I give just left join? So I'll show you that as well. Okay, so let me run this. So left join is quite obvious. It just give all the rows which has been in the left and also the rows that matching in the right. So you will be getting all the values, right? So that is the difference between left and left anti. So the main part of this code to achieve this particular solution is this left anti by creating two different data frames. And if you have any approach, you can mention that in the comment box so that others can get information from your comment, right? If you like this video, please subscribe my channel, and thanks for watching. Hi, welcome to the Data Tech. Today we are going to discuss about an interesting PySpark question asked in one of the product-based company. So it's all about, you have some list of movies, and there is one more file which has the ratings of that particular movies from the different users. Now you have to find out the top 3 movie based on the rating. Okay, so this is the question. So I have just cracked that question and I got the answer here. I have the code here. Okay, I'll just give you the walkthrough of the code. So here we have two data frame as I told you. So the first one, you have the list of movies, and I'll just give you the schema details. So one is actually the movie ID, and the second is actually the movie name. And now the second row, it's about movie ID and then the movie name. So movie name is movie B and movie C, vice versa. Now you have to convert this to a data frame by giving a column name to it. So this is the data, right? And then now I'm just creating a column names for the above data. So the column name is, for first column, it is movie ID, and the second column is a movie name. Now after that, you have to convert this to a data frame. Create data frame. You have to pass your data and the column. So now your data frame will create the data set with the column names. Now first let's execute only these 3 lines. Okay, and before that you have to execute this particular imports with whatever it is required. Now I'm going to use a function called average. So I just need this import as well. So let me run this. Now let's create our first data set and convert that to a data frame by assigning a column to it. Okay, so now let me show this tfmovie.show. So you can able to see there is 5 records and 5 different movies. Now let's create another data frame. So here I'll just give you the walkthrough of the schema of the data set. So this is actually the movie ID, and this is user ID. So I'm not using the username. Instead of username, I'm assigning a unique value for each of the users. Okay. And this is the last value in the column is a rating. So this is the data set, and I'm giving a column structure for it. You can see movie ID is the first column, user ID is the second column, and rating of the movie is the third column. And I'm converting that to a data frame as like we did for the previous data set. Now let me run this. Okay, so now let me show you this. So now you can able to see we have two data frame. This is all about the movie name and the movie ID. Here we have movie ID, user ID, and the ratings, whatever the user have given for the particular movie. Now what you have to do is you have to get the rating of the top three rating of the movies given by the user. So if you see here, 101 and 102, these two users have given two different rating for the same movie, right? So that means you have to group the rating based on the movie ID, and then you have to get the average of it, right? So that means, for example, now if you take 4.5 for the same movie but the different user, right? And then same user, the second record has given 4.0 but the different user but same movie, but the rating is different. So 4.5 plus 4.0 is 8.5. Now divide by 2, 4.25 is the rating that we got overall from the different user for the first movie. So this way you have to group the movie ID, and based on the grouping you get the ratings and get the average of it. So now how we are going to achieve this in PySpark? Okay, let's get back to the code. So this line, if you see, average rating is equal to df rating, that is the second data frame dot group by movie ID, and I'm invoking the aggregation function because I'm going to use average function. So I'm invoking aggregation and I'm taking the average of the rating based on the group by of movie ID. So I'm without this group by movie ID, if you give, it takes the average of the whole uh, 10 records, right? Whatever you have given, it just does the summation of all this and then it does divide by 10 and you will be getting the rating. So we should not get that way. So the record has to be get grouped based on the movie ID and then only I have to get the average of it. And the next line is, now I have to fetch the top three out of it, right? So now top movie is equal to average rating is the data frame that which we created with this calculation, that is for every group of movie ID, I'm getting the average calculation and that is ready. And I'm joining that data frame with df movie. Df movie is actually this data, first data. It has the number, the movie ID, and then the movie name. So now I'm joining with that, and the joining key is going to be movie ID and order by average rating. So average rating is something, the name that you have given as an alias name for this calculation, the average calculation. And ascending is equal to false. So you are disabling the ascending. Automatically it comes because by default it comes with ascending order, right? So I'm just disabling that and then I'm taking the limit of 3. So obviously it gives me the top 3 records. Now let me run these three lines. So now you can see I'm getting top three movie list, like movie A is top and movie B is top and movie C is in the third place. Movie B is in the second place and movie A is in the first place. So I'm getting 1, 2, 3 as the movie ID because we have two more movie IDs, 4 and 5, but we didn't get any proper response from that because that is has a lower rating. So if you really like this video, please subscribe my channel and thanks for watching. Hi, welcome to the Data Tech. So today I'm gonna discuss a very good and interesting PySpark interview question. So this question has been asked in three different product-based companies. In the last month, I got these questions from three different candidates and with the same question. It's all about moving average. So moving average is a statistical term. In a real-time use case, I can say your share market graphs or moving average, So if you are new to this terminology, right, I'll just try to explain the question first and then let's get into what is this moving average is all about. So the question is you have a sales data frame with column, date, product ID, and quantity sold. How would you calculate a 7-day rolling average of quantity sold for each product? So this is a question. Now let's discuss what this moving average, otherwise called as a rolling average first. I'll just give you in a very layman term. I'll teach you like you're five. All right. Imagine you have a little toy train that runs on a track every day. Each day you count how many times it goes around the track one day it might go around 5 times, the next day 7 times, and then 6 times, and so on. A moving average is like looking back at the last few days to find the average number of times your train went around the track. For example, if you look back at the last 3 days and the train went 5, 7, and 6 times around the track, you would add those numbers up, like 5 plus 7 plus 6 is equal to 18, and then divide by 3, because you are looking at 3 days only, right? So 18 divided by 3 is 6. That means the average of these 3 days is 6 times around the track. This moving part means you keep changing the days you look at. The next day you might count the train around for the day, then add it to the previous 2 days and find a new average. This way you are always updating the average with the latest information, right? So this is what they are expecting. Now let's get into the code part. Okay. So here is the code. So the first thing, like I need some of the imports. I'm going to use window function as well. So I'm just going to import all these needed information. So let me just run this. Okay. So now back. So this is my data set. So you have the date and then the product ID and then the quantity sold, right? So now you have to identify the 7 days of moving average. Okay. Now let me create this data frame. It's just a data. I have to create this as a data frame. So that is what this line does. So create data frame of data, right? So now let me just show you the input data. Okay. So this is the input data. Right. Now, what is the next line is all about? So now so now it's all about string. The complete data frame is in string, right? So I have to convert the date back to date, right? So that's what I'm doing here. So from string of date type to date of date type. Okay. So now you can see df sales with column, the date one, and f dot to date. I'm just converting this to date, and the column which I'm converting is date, right? So I'm just creating a new name for it with the date function. Okay, let me run this. So now the date column has been converted back to the date data type. Now I'm just creating the window function. So I'm just creating a partition by, so the partition column which I'm using is product ID, right, which is 100. So that means it's same, like it creates one partition with 100 as one partition and order by date. So order by means ascending to descending. And here rows between is actually what the magical part of this code. This actually the moving average is being implemented with the keyword of this rows between. When I say -6 to 0, so whichever record I take, for example, I want to identify the moving average of this particular record, this particular row. So that means you have to consider the previous 6 lines from this 35, that is previous 6 days. Okay, so this 6 denotes whichever record you take, you have to consider the previous 6 days of values and then you have to get the average of it. Now you may get a lot of questions. For example, now let me consider this particular row. Okay, so let me consider this particular row. Okay, so now you are telling that I have to take 6 previous days from the current row. So there is no 6 previous days because I take 15 and previously I'm having only one record, but that is completely fine. Okay, so if there is no 6 days of record or whatever it is available less than or equal to, it should not be beyond that 6. Okay, for example, you take last record 45, right? So you have to take only the last 6 record, and that means still here you should not consider 10. But that is the case is fine for the last record. But what is the case for the second record? So when you consider the second record and you don't have the previous 6 days of record because you have only one record before this, just consider only 10 and 15. So 10 and 15. So 10 and 15 divide by 2. So now let's get into the calculator. So 10 plus 15 divide by 2. So 12.5 is the moving average for the second record. So what I'll do is, okay, let me run this now. Okay, so let me run this complete code. I'll just show you the first output. For the second row, I'll just show you the output. So you can see here, right? So 12.5. Right. So this is how the moving average works. For example, now let's consider I have to identify the moving average for the third record. So just check whether you have 6 previous days. No, there is only 2 previous days. Now what you have to do, 10 plus 15 plus 20 divide by 3. It has to be 3 now. So you get 15. So 15 is the moving average for the third record. So you have to do one so and so. So minus 6 is it's about you are giving the input for how many days of moving average I have to check. The question itself says you have to get the 7 days rolling average. So I've just started with minus 6 to 0. Right. And the last line of the code is so it's about getting the average. So rolling average, I'm just creating a variable df sales, which is has the date. I've just got the date, right? I converted the type of date from string to date. So with column of 7-day average, I'm just giving a name for the column, and f is a alias name I have given for my function. I'm invoking the average function, and then quantity sold. I just wanted to get the average of this quantity sold based on the window spec that got created. Okay, based on the window spec. So so over is all about like you are specifying a condition. So the specific logic should run only with respect to that condition is what over is all about, right? So now that's the output we got. So here the final rolling average dot show, where I can see the date and the product ID, quantity sold, and then the 7 days average. I'm just adding the 7 days average as the last column of the existing data frame, right? So this is how it is going to be, right? So here I'm using the partition by on product ID, so it just create one partition because all the product ID is same, right? So this is wonderful question actually, and answering this in a quite interesting way is also matters for impressing the interviewer. So if you really like this video, please do subscribe my channel, and thanks for watching. Hi, welcome to the Data Tech. So today we are going to discuss about an interesting PySpark question asked in an interview. So this question is about a UDF. So how can you use a UDF in PySpark to apply a complex transformation, say categorizing ages into groups like youth, adult, and senior? So this is not actually a complex one, but that was a question which I told you before. It was not a complex one. You can do just with conditional statement. I actually cracked this question. I have the answer here. So let me just give you the walkthrough on the code. So if you see, this is the data set you can see. So user ID. So instead of name, I've just given user ID and the age on the right hand side, like 4001 is a user ID and the age is 17. And obviously it's a youth, right? So 17 is youth, 45 is adult, 65 is senior. So you have to do this with a UDF. So now first let's create the data frame. So this is a data. Let's convert this to a data frame first, and df dot show. Okay, so I have my data frame ready. So let's create the function as categorize underscore age. So this is going to be act as an input for the UDF. We have to convert this function as a UDF. It accepts one argument age. So if age less than 18, return youth. Else if age less than 60, adult. Else return senior. So this is the function. So let me run this function. So we create this function. So once you created the function, so this is your own function. Now you convert this function to a UDF. So here, this line number 21 does that. So I create age UDF as a function name, like you have split, AVG, average, min, max, first, last. So these are all some of the predefined function available in the Spark, right? So similar to that, I'm creating my own function called age underscore UDF, and I'm invoking the keyword UDF, and within that I'm passing this categorize underscore age as a string type. That's it. So now you created your own UDF called age underscore UDF. Now imagine whenever this particular logic required, you don't want to rewrite this in the code wherever it is required. So instead you convert that as a UDF and just use it. That's it. So now back to the code. So df equal to df dot with column. I'm giving a name for the column as age group, and then I'm invoking my own function called age UDF, like you invoke min, max, first, last, right? I invoke my own UDF and I'm passing my age. That's it. So now I just run this code, you will be getting the output. So 17 means youth, 45 is adult, 65 is senior, 30 is adult, 80 is senior, right? So this particular UDF will iterate for each row. It iterates your record and it iterates that particular categorize function for every row. It executes this function and gives you the output, right? So this is all about the video. And thanks for watching. If you really like this video, please do subscribe my channel. Hi, welcome to the Data Tech. So this is going to be PySpark interview question video series. So the playlist link is there in the description box where you can find more interview questions in PySpark. Now let's get into the topic. So now we are going to discuss an interesting interview question asked in PySpark by a product-based company. So the question is, find the count of unique visitors to a website per day. But this is very easy one, but they have asked this in the interview. So let's just start with the data set. So here you can see I have a data set here. So which has date and then the visitor ID. So I have two columns. Okay. So it's a very straightforward approach. It's just with one line you can complete this actually. So what you can do, first you group the date. Okay, you group the date, and after grouping the date, you will be getting two groups, which is 2023-01-01 as one group, 2023-01-02 as another group. So we have only two groups, right? So for each group, take the distance of visitor ID. For example, if you take these three, like 101, 102, 101, these three record comes under one group called 2023-01-01. So now within this group, take the distant of, count the distant of. That's it. It's the straightforward approach. So you can see here, I just do a group by of date, and then I invoke aggregate function, and I invoke count distant of. I'm passing this visitor ID, and I'm giving an alias name for it. That's it. It's all that simple. So let's run this code and see the output. So enter. Now you can see like I'm getting 0, 1 and then the unique visitor is 2 because if you see the total number of visitor is 3 but unique visitor is 2, 101 and 102. And then the second date like Jan 2nd I have two distant visitor. That's it. That's simple, right? So if you really like this video, please do subscribe my channel and thanks for watching. Hi, welcome to PySpark interview question series. So the playlist link is there in the description box where you can find more interview questions in PySpark. Now let's get into the topic. So today we are going to discuss about a very interesting PySpark interview question asked in a product-based company. So the question is determine the first purchase date of each user. Okay, so if you see here, I have user ID 1, 1. This is repeated and then 2, 3. Okay, now purchase date for the each user ID I have like for the first user Jan 5th and again the first user again he purchased on Jan 10 and second user purchased on Jan 3 and third user purchased on Jan 12th. Now you have to take the first purchase date for each user. Okay, so it's a very straightforward approach. It's just one liner. So before that, let's create the data frame for this. So for this data, let's create the data frame. Okay, so I just converted this to a data frame. Let's just do show. Let's invoke show. Okay, I got the output. So here I have two times the user ID one has purchased, but I have to take the first purchase of each user. Now here one and one is repeated for example purpose. Now I'm just after creating the data frame, I'm just converting this date to actual date because now we converted everything to a string. So I'm converting this date back to date. So I'm just doing the cast of date with purchase data set with column name. Now let me execute this as well. Okay. Now the actual line which does the magic is, so first purchase equal to df purchase group by user ID. So I have the magic here is you have to group the user. So here for group one, you will be getting two dates. I'm getting the min of purchase date. That means you invoke aggregate function and then pass min of purchase date and give the alias name for it. And that's it. It's all done. Right. So let me run these two lines. Okay. So I got the output. So for first record, like the first user ID has two dates, but the minimum, the first purchase is 5 and the second purchase is 10, right? So it gives 5. So these questions are very simple, seems to be very simple. When you got or cracked the answer, it seems to be very simple. But in the interview, when they suit out such question, people will feel like it's like huge logic, but really it doesn't work in that way. It's very simple one. And if you need such PySpark video series, I have given the playlist link in the description box of this video. And please do subscribe my channel. And thanks for watching. Hi, welcome to Data Tech. So this video series is all about PySpark interview question video series. And in this today video, we are going to discuss about an interesting question in PySpark asked in a product-based company. So the question is generate a sequential number of each row within each group order by date. But this is a very straightforward approach and very easy one. So here you can see, I'll show you the data set first. So this is a data set. So it has two columns. So one is group ID and another one is date. So now if you see, it's a straightforward approach. I'm going to use window function, and in window function, I'm going to use row number. So let me execute this. So before that, let me show you the some of the imports which is required. So I just need the PySpark.sql imports, and then row number and windows. And let's just execute till here. So it's the group underscore data as the data, and I'm converting that to a data frame in the line number 2 with create data frame function. Okay, so let me just pass this. So now the data frame has been created. Now I'll just show you this output of the df. So now we got the data. So group ID and then date. Now you have to generate a sequence number for each row by grouping the group ID. Right. So for every specific group, for example, if you take for the line number 1, that is record 1, the number should start with 1. And then for record 2, the number should be 2. And again for B, it should not be 3. Instead, it should be 1. Okay, now the group is different, right? So for the question itself says generate a sequential number for each row within each group order by date, right? So now let's go back. Now, so this line number 14, what I'm trying to do is I'm just converting the date to back to date. So because I currently the date column is in string, so I'm converting it to an actual type. So I'm just using cast of this column date to date. So I'm giving a column name as date in the with column function. Now let me run this too. Fine. So now I'm just creating a Windows spec. Okay, so window.partition by group ID. So now I'm creating a partition for my data. So that means using Windows function. So that means I'll here you will be getting two partitions. So A. So these two records will be get merged, but not the values. So it's, for example, it will be like A, and under A you will be having two records. So 2023-0101, 2023-0102. So you'll be having two records under A and two records under B. So I'm just doing partition by group ID, order by date. So now I created two partitions. So now this Windows spec, what I'm going to do, the next line df underscore group equal to df underscore group dot with column. I'm just giving a name, and I'm here using a row number dot over. So over is about you are specifying a condition for the window function. Okay, so over is all about you created a condition, and that condition is all about this Windows spec. So whatever the row number that is being generated, so it has to be work with respect to this condition. Imagine if I'm not giving this, what it will happen, right? It will create sequence number like 1, you can see here, so 2 and 3 and 4. So it will create in this way. But our agenda is not like that. So you have to create a sequence number for each row within each group, right? So then you have to give this window spec. So now let me run this code till here. Okay, so now you can see A, the first record is 1, and again for second record A, it is 2. For B, it is not 3. Instead, it started with 1. So this is what the expectation is all about. So I have made lots of PySpark interview related videos. You can find the playlist link in the description box of this video. So I have cracked so many answers for the question that I get in daily basis. So I make that as a video. So if you really like this video, please do subscribe my channel, and thanks for watching. Hi, welcome to the Data Tech. So today we are going to discuss about an interesting interview question asked in one of the product-based companies in PySpark, and this is a PySpark interview question video series, and complete playlist link in the description box of this video. So first I will show you the data set, and I will explain you the problem, and then we can move on to the solution. So this is the data set. You can see like it has two columns, sales ID and then the amount. So the problem statement here, you have to identify the null amount column records. For example, this has null, third record has a null in amount, and fifth record has null in amount column. Now you have to replace this none values, that is the null values, into average, that is mean of amount. Okay, so you have to do that. So now first what we are doing is we are just creating the data set, and I'm converting that to a data frame. So I'll just execute this, and if you see here, I'm doing it with mean. So I'm just importing mean and call function. So let me first execute this. Okay. So now what you have to do is the next thing is average underscore amount sales underscore df dot na dot drop. That means you are just dropping the rows which has the null values. Okay. So we are just dropping it dot aggregate. So I'm invoking aggregate and mean call of amount. So when you run this, right? So here I'm just giving, so whatever the output that I'm getting, I have to get the first occurrence of it. So I'm just invoking this first, but this first function will return row object. Okay, so the thing is, so I'll just show you one thing. So let me run this. I'm not going to include zero, just I'll just run this. Okay, so now let me go back and then I will trigger the next one. Okay. So if you see, I'm getting an error. So it says in the next line, I'm just invoking this average amount into my sales.df.na.fill. So that means what this line tells you is wherever we see null value, just fill that with average amount. So I'm just doing it. But here we are getting an error. When you invoke first, right, it returns row object. So that is the reason, like what we are doing is we are just adding of zero. Okay. Now enter. So now this will give you in the float format. Okay. So now I'm invoking the next line. So where I'm trying to replace all null values just with the invoking fill function, I'm just adding average amount. Now let me run these two lines. Okay, so now you can able to see, whereas for third record it was none, but now for third record it is 150, right? And then fifth record it is none, now fifth record is 150. Now let me show you the calculation here. Now we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 records, but we have to ignore two records which has null value. So let's ignore third record and fifth record. Now what you have to do, you have to just do the summation of amount for the columns which has amount in the value. Right, so 100 and then plus 150 and then plus I'm going to add 200. You can ask me what about 3, because I cannot include 3 because 3 has null values, and 5 also I cannot include because that is also having null values. So now I'll just do 200. So now it is 450. Now how to calculate mean? So divide by. So now the question is, divide by, you have to give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 3. So we cannot give 5 because third record and fifth record I'm ignoring, so I cannot give 5. So the divide by is going to be 3. So the answer is 150. So now I'm going to replace this 150 in whatever the place it has null values in the amount column. So that's it. So if you really like this video, please do subscribe my channel, and thanks for watching. Hi, welcome to the Data Tech. So today we are going to discuss a very interesting PySpark interview question asked in a product-based company. So this is a PySpark interview question video series. So the playlist link is there in the description box of this video. Okay, so first I'll tell you the question. So given a data set of sales record with monthly sales per product, reshape the data to have one row per product month combination. Okay, that means, so if you see, this is the input. So you have to pivot it, like you have to, this is the expected output. So I have product 100, 150 and 200. So it's like January 100, February 150 and March it is 200. So you have to pivot it like product Jan 100, product 1 February 150, product 1 March 200 and vice versa. So this is what the agenda. So I just cracked the code and I have the code here. Okay, so now, so these are the two imports which is required for this particular program. So I have my input data and then I'm just creating a schema for it. And finally, I'm just creating a data frame with the data and the column. So let me first execute this. Okay, so now we created a df. So df dot show. Okay, so you got the input data in the format of tabular column, right? So now I have to pivot this, like you can see pivoted df dot select expression. So product is going to be my first column. So you can see in the expected output, so product is my first column, and then I'm using a function called stack. So stack function is used here to pivot the data frame from a wider format where each month sales are in a separate column to a long format where each row represents sales for a specific month for a product. Okay, so if you see here, I'm just saying 3 because I need 3 rows for each product, like product 1 3 rows, product 2 3 rows, product 3 3 rows. So that's why I'm mentioning 3 here. And so then I'm giving Jan. So this is a value which I'm hard coding so that that will be get populated in the second month column. And then here sales Jan. So whatever the value, so sales Jan actually gives 100, 200, 300, and sales Feb actually gives 150, 250, 350. So I'm just taking the amount column. So now vice versa, I'm doing for February sales Feb, March sales March, as I'm giving month as a column name for this hard coded value Jan, Feb and March, and I'm giving sales as a column name for sales Jan, sales Feb, sales March. So for that I'm giving column name as sales. Now let me run these two lines. Okay, so now you can able to see it has been got pivoted. So stack is a magic which actually does this part. If you really like this video, please subscribe my channel and thanks for watching.